Yo, welcome to Networking with Nathaniel, a real estate investing, real estate podcast where I get the chance to bring on real estate investors and other people around the real estate space to chat with and talk about their journeys inside and outside of real estate. Today I have the pleasure of talking with none other than Kevin Choe. Kevin is currently at community camp, so there might be people coming and going in the background, but Kevin's been freaking action taker. He's been a heavy hitter in the real estate space, going direct to seller and going direct to agent, locking up deals to wholesale as well as to hold as his own investments. I'm really excited to talk to Kevin here. Without further ado, let's bring him on. Hey, brother.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing, man?
Man, it's been a hectic the last few days. I drove the RV from Phoenix to Montana, and we've been here for a couple. This is the last day, and it is a lot. It's just a lot of people that we're talking to, and I'm like, I was kind of worried, like, am I gonna have time to just even be on a podcast with you? Because it's been so hectic. Like, it's schedule's been just filled back to back to back. But
Yeah.
today doesn't start till noon, so it worked out perfect.
Okay. Well, yeah, I appreciate you being here, man. I know I can hear the commotion in the background, and I saw somebody dancing in the background while the little countdown was going on. I couldn't
Yeah,
see who it was, but
yeah,
I know we normally go, just for anybody that's listening out there, we normally go to the hour, but because of the activities and things that are going on with Kevin, we're going to probably keep this to 30, 45 minutes tops, just
yeah.
to try to cram as much as we can. So where are you at right now, Kevin? I know that I mentioned that you started with direct to seller, I believe. This is going back a few years where you and I first connected before I even joined Sub2. You were doing foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, and then you've pivoted and you've been doing a lot of stuff. So what's kind of currently keeping you busy?
If I were to be totally honest, nothing really. Um, I, I've gotten to a point where, like, my business is very streamlined, and it doesn't require my physical presence because I have partners in place and I have people that the people in place. But I do right now. Majority of my business still comes from direct to agents, right? Like, I have a team that all we do is call listings that's been on the market for X amount of time, that has X amount of equity, and we still hammer a lot of those deals like that. And and that's kind of where I'm at with my real estate, like my business. But um, and we probably do, like, I'll say at least 4 deals a month, just doing that. And then I'm like, I don't want to grow it even further. Like, that's the most I would grow. You know what I mean?
Okay. What's keeping you like why that? Why don't you want to grow it anymore?
I don't really want to grow it anymore because there's a point of diminishing return where, like, if I could right now, I don't even feel like I need to put in a lot of energy and effort for me to get to that for me to get to 4 deals a month. But 0 to 4 is, it takes up probably 20% of my energy. But then once you go from 4 to 8 or 4 to 10, it takes up like 50% of my energy, and I'm not. I'd much rather spend that time elsewhere on possibly, like, building my business, like building, like, my branding and my social media and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I've really noticed over the past, I don't know, maybe year now that you've really been focusing on putting out, not just putting out content, but really putting out value driven content, right? You drop a lot of just knowledge and helpful hints and tips for everybody out there. So that's something that, you know, I love watching your content as well as, like, I try to emulate it as much as I can. I'm not doing as
Right,
much
right.
as you are. How did you get yourself to the position where, only 20% of your time is taken up for these wholesale deals? Like, how long did it take you? What kind of systems and processes did you put in place for that?
Um, I the answer that I'm going to give you is not something that a lot of people would be happy to hear because it requires a certain type of personality. So, for like, when we first connected, I was, I don't think I was doing a lot of deals, probably like 1 or 2 deals a month, but I was very active on, like, Facebook groups. I was very active on my social media, and I right now I got to a point where I just have a partner in my real estate business that takes 50% of my deals, but then, like, every single one of my deal flow, or like I'll say 70 to 80% of my deal flow, comes from my social media presence, like my YouTube. I had a seller that reached out to me, watch my YouTube video, and try to get It's like I want to sell you my house. I also have like my Instagram posts, my Instagram stories. Those allowed me to get a lot of deal flow, and those take care of my deal flow for the most part. And then I just have a partner on the back end that takes care of it.
I love that. How did
And
you
then
find this? Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
and then those deals that I would do, I would create more content around it. So it's like it's nothing but like a spiraling effect. It's like
Yeah.
you do more deals, you make more content, you do more deals, and you make more contents.
Is there any advice that you could give somebody that's just getting started for like that maybe doesn't have a deal going that can be out there creating content?
Um, okay, I've never gotten that answer because the most of the people that are into contents that are into real estate, they don't want to create content. Like you and I are very different. I have my podcast as well. I have my own, social media going. But I think um, if you have a personality of you doing contents and being successful and actually people enjoying the contents that you have, it uh, I think just documenting the things that you're doing along the way because people want to watch it as a credibility when you get bigger, but it helps people like that are watching okay, like I'm cold calling, I'm watching this cold call video. I'll like it would attract more people that's wanting to do that, and more people will be bringing deals to you. So I don't know. I never really thought about that. That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I it's hard for me to imagine, right? Because we are doing deals, but I know that there's people out there that hear what you're saying, that like, social media, and it's something that I preach as well. Like social media is a big part of how we create a brand, how we create a presence, and how we attract people to us. Like if I'm just getting started, I think like, okay, well, what did I do today? Let me talk about that. What lesson maybe have I learned? Um, I don't know. It's a tough question for you to answer, I guess, because you've been doing deals for what, 4 or 5 years now at this point.
Yeah. I think I really took off like 2 years ago when it comes to like deal flow.
Hmm.
But I was always I think I was always kind of creating contents. Like I have my very first deal on my Instagram. I have my very first check on my Instagram. I have one of my very first phone calls on my YouTube. Like
Hmm.
everything around me, I've been just so accustomed to it. And people watch those videos from so long ago, and they want to do deals with me. And
Yeah.
and I feel like that's my and I think that's like a big main lead generation strategy, where you have to have like evergreen contents to generate leads. Because if you're in the active lead generation business, your business stops once that lead generation stops. But for me,
Yeah.
like I haven't really, like I could kind of turn off all my marketing, and I say this very humbly, I could turn off everything, and I think everything was, there will be a little bit of dip here and there, but I think I will consistently do 3 or 4 deals a month just from the leads that I get from my YouTube and all my social media platforms.
Yeah. That's amazing. I know Alexandra's asked any tips on how to talk to agents. Do you have any specific videos that pop right into your head on your channel that you could that I could send to him?
Not one in particular, but I do have I'm going to give. I have a Google Drive of like one of the top like 10 bestseller agent calls, or
Okay.
10 bestseller calls. I'm just gonna give that away in the near future. But um, no, I mean I have probably close to 25 hours, 30 hours of just calls on my YouTube. You know
Yeah.
what? So I think that's pretty helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
So there's Alexandra's for you is one, go to his YouTube channel because, like he said, there's a lot of content out there of him just talking to agents and talking to sellers. And then I might want to be following him on Instagram and his other social medias to find out when that little gift that he's going to drop is going to be coming out. So Um,
right.
how did you the partner that you have in place right now that it sounds like is handling a lot of the kind of day-to-day stuff and allowing you to go out there and be creating opportunities and be bringing in opportunities? How did you find this person?
So I have a lot of people that wanted to work with me and work for me on so many in all my businesses, and usually um, I turn them down just because like they're brand new, and I feel like you're more of a liability to me than you are a asset. But And but Lorraine, the way she reached out to me was, hey, she texted, she sent me a long Facebook message and said she introduced herself. And one thing that what really stood out to me from for her was I have a real estate creative finance background. I've worked for this creative finance investor for like last 4 years as a W-2 employee. I've sold lease options. I've done all the, I've sold wraps. I've sold houses on seller finance. All those things. I'm very familiar with subject twos, and I would like to work for you to kind of prove myself first, and then I want to, and then to see if it's something that we want to work together. And so it's like okay, well, if you already have experience, and if it requires me not teaching you, then it is definitely a win-win for me.
Yeah. Hmm. Sounds a little bit like the Think and Grow Rich
Oh yeah,
story. Yeah.
uh
Which I think you
yeah,
mentioned on your Instagram channel just recently.
yeah, yeah. So and then ever since then, like she's proven herself over and over again. I think she's done over 100 deals in the last couple like year and a half.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. So like there's a little tip for you guys out there is when you're reaching out to somebody like Kevin who's maybe a chapter or a few ahead of you is like just give as much value and show as much value as you can. That's how you get people like kind of take notice, not just a generic hey Kevin, I'd love to work with you message. Like those are going to get brushed over. Somebody like Kevin's too busy to be kind of weeding through all of those. You got to freaking like stand out from the crowd. So um
I mean, it's not even the like it's not even that I'm busy. It's more so like okay, like if like if your question is okay, like let's figure out how we can work together, then I have to spend time out of my day to figure out what you're capable of and kind of figure out like where I can fit you in my business. So now like who's doing the work? Like I'm doing the work, and so you added more work to me than I did not when I when I did not need it. You know?
yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I talk about networking with other people a lot, and a lot of the times is like, "Hey, how can I help you?" Right? People will go in and ask. That's the first question. How can I help you? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know you. How can you help me? I don't know what you bring to the table. Right? So it
Right. Right.
sounds kind of like along those lines. It's like, tell me what you got. Tell me what you're working with. I like to go like, hey, what are you needing in your business right now? What hurdles are you encountering? Like, what things are you struggling with? What's working well? Right? And then that gives me, as the person asking, how can I help you? Like, gives me a
Right.
bunch of answers, and that's how I can figure out how I can help them. But I know that you've got the wholesaling thing kind of on autopilot in a sense, right? You're out
Right.
there
Right.
creating content and bringing in opportunities for your team to be able to lock up and dispo your deals. I know that you've over the past 12 to 18 months or whatever, you've put together a portfolio of your own.
Right.
And I don't know if anybody out there listening is already following you, but I know that you've recently made a pretty significant switch in that.
I
Uh,
did.
yeah, would you tell me about that and like what brought that about, like what the next steps are?
Yeah. I've talked with my partner, so like there's things that I'm allowed to say, there are things that I'm not allowed to say. But in terms
Okay.
of like, um, so for those of you guys who don't know, like I've built my real estate portfolio, only utilizing subject to and seller finance, and these are like 2, 3, 4% subject twos. And mind you, like all the deal flow that I have, I can cherry pick really, really good deals. And I also have had handful of 0% seller finance deals in my portfolio that I held on to these. So we bought them. My partner and I bought them. Some of them I put my own money into it, and then my partner put some money into it, and we also leveraged a lot of private money lender to get into these deals. And in the last 14 months, we've done we've built a portfolio of 27 single family houses, two duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, and it was doing really, really well. And but my partner recently got married
Mhm.
about 2 months ago, and I guess I'm sure there was a little bit of him wanting to be part of what we built, because there's I'm one of the few partners that a lot of people want to be partners with me, because I actually fulfill my responsibilities in my job as a partner, and I have multiple partners in all my businesses. And so we built a 27-year portfolio in 14 months, stabilized everything. But like how entrepreneurs are, like for me, I did not really have a hard time. I got bored of it really, really quickly.
Hmm.
I said, I was thinking like there's nothing exciting about what I'm doing right now, and I don't know if I want to do it.
Hmm.
And I was doing the mundane things over and over again, and that burned me out because I'm one of those people that need constant stress in my life. And
Interesting.
so it's like we would go buy a really good seller finance deal, and then that didn't even excite me. We'll buy one single family house, like, oh, another one. Buy a duplex, oh, another one.
Hmm.
And I was kind of talking this with my partner, and she was like, why don't you like what would it look like? I'm not saying like this is how I want to be, but what would it look like if you were to be bought out? And initially I said no, because this is something that I put a lot of my heart, a lot of my energy into. This is like what I built up this wholesale business to, was to for me to have all the money and things like that to actually take down these properties. So I said no initially, but then I called her back a couple of days later, and I said, what would it look like if you were to buy me out? And she said, well, I mean, let's just do like whatever the house is worth, whatever equity we have in the house, and we just divide that in half, and I'll just pay you out of that. So the number that we settled in was we had about $500,000 in equity, and the other quarter million, the other 50% was mine. So the purchase price was 254, and
Okay.
I got a $50,000 down payment, and I seller financed my portion. So I seller financed the LLC ownership because these two LLC ownerships held all the assets together.
Okay.
um, these two LLCs held all these assets together. So it actually, I didn't want to do 27 different transactions. I wanted to do
Right.
two LLC two LLC transfers, whatever. So I sold 50% of my two LLCs. I held all these assets together, and I seller financed it for 2 years at 0% interest rate. And I actually sold it on seller finance because I did not want to receive all my money up front, because I
Yeah.
knew that I would have taxable events, which is ironic because not all sellers want to get that big of a down payment, and I
Right.
was a seller.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but then
Yeah.
also, yeah, I mean but that was the numbers. That was like how my partner and I, we decided to exit the partnership. We had a couple of things that I want people to know is that I had I had, what do you call it? I had a lot of private money lenders in the deal, which which was part of the sale, right? So my partner is taking over my private money lender's payment, but that was not a really big deal for us because how I treat my lenders is like I fly them out to Phoenix, which is where I live, or I lived, and everybody knew my partner.
Yeah.
We sat down, we called every single one of them, and we did like 20 to 30 minute conversation and said, this is how we're gonna plan out. Is I'm seller financing my note for 2 years, and my partner CC will replace every single one of my lenders with her lenders, or pay them off eventually.
Okay.
And um, yeah, so that's kind of how we structured the deal. And I don't have my first payment for at least I get my first payment on December 1st, because I wanted to give her enough time to stabilize all these assets, make sure she is good to go with liquidity, and then I'm gonna start getting paid out.
Yeah. It's amazing that you're like, it seems like all the things that you've been working on and kind of doing over the past few years have not, this isn't the end, obviously, but have kind of culminated in this, and you've been able to, you were able to use those different tools to create a win-win for you as now the seller, which is,
Yeah.
yeah, how was that, like, how was that mental switch for you?
I mean, if I were to be totally honest, I cried a couple of times for the first, ever since we finalized the deal.
Mm.
Um, it's like I've been in the real estate for 4 years, and it's like this is what you work up towards, right? Like you do the wholesale stuff, you make the money, you get experience you get connected with cool people, and it's like you're selling something that you cradle for so long, right? Like
Mhm.
it's like this is like your baby.
Yeah.
Like most people, this is like my on one of my businesses, and it was definitely an emotional sale. And I want to say I wanted to sell it. I got a good number. I got a number that I was happy with. It wasn't a number that it wasn't a high number, right? Like 254 is not a big number considering how many units it was. But mind you, we bought this in the last 14 months, so none of these houses really had equity.
Right.
But it was a lot of. Sad is not the right word, but it was. Oh man, like emptiness. I was like empty. I was. Oh hey, thank you so much. Do you want to be in the podcast? Let's say hi. No, come on here. Monday, you want to come on, say hi?
Hello.
You're the cute. You're like the cutest baby that I know. Thank
Yeah.
you. Is this for me? Did you make this for me? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna open it when I'm done with this, and I'm gonna give you a big hug. Okay? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna let you go. Okay, Monday. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Little notes.
Oh. Is it Uncle Kevin?
Oh no, it just
Comes
some
with.
masterpiece.
Yeah. It's.
Uh, but going back to that, it was like I was you sell something that you work on for so long, and but at the same time it freed me to move on to the next venture of my life, which was multifamily. And I think that's a lot of the switch that everybody has to make eventually is like, okay, you can do the single family homes for however long, but eventually you got to make that switch. And for me, like I said, like I brought my biggest point was it was mundane.
Mhm.
I was burnt out from the lack of stress that came from my business because it was so streamlined. I'm like, it's so weird. There has to be, as an entrepreneur, there has to be uh the perfect balance between like the level of difficulties. Like if it's too easy, then I get bored. But if it's too stressed, if it's way too hard, it stresses me out. But
Yeah.
there's a middle spot where it's like, oh my gosh, this is like I'm thrilled to do this. And I would say it was way too easy. So
Yeah.
um,
That's funny. That's crazy. It like.
yeah, I
It,
never even thought about that. Like it's
yeah.
like if it's too easy, it stresses me out.
Yeah. That's it. It. You might be a little young for the reference, but I know you'll know who this is. But there was a point in the mid '90s when the most famous basketball player in the world hung up his jersey, and it sounds a lot like what you're saying. Like, I've won 3 championships in a row, right? I've built this portfolio, I've streamlined my systems. Like, there's not a really challenge for me, and it's an interesting mindset that you have that you're like, oh, I need the challenge. I need to be uncomfortable to a certain extent. I need to be stressed to a certain extent so I can be performing at my best. When things are
Right,
comfortable, you're just like, oh, well, I guess I'll just get up and like play some PlayStation or something today. And like, that's not you, right? You've crammed a lot
right,
into 4 years. Um, what I've what one thing that I put out in some of the like posts that I made about talking about this is that um, you've gone out and you've learned from a lot of different people. Of course, Pace Morby being one of the most more prolific ones, but um, you've learned from I think Keston as well, right? Like you've
right,
been
right.
constantly putting yourself into coaching programs and educational places. Are there any that have really been? I mean, besides the Pace one, obviously, that's for everybody out there. Like Sub 2 is just a of I don't even know how to describe it. It's amazing in so many different ways. But are there any programs or anything that really have changed your trajectory over the past few years outside of Sub 2?
Um, Not necessarily programs, but the relationships.
Okay.
Um, I never really joined a lot of programs. If anything, that was really monumental for what I've done. Will be unlocking. Will be will be a couple people in my life that unlocked the switch that allowed me to overcome certain things that I did not believe in myself before. So
Mm,
like during like I did my very first creative finance workshop 3 weeks ago, almost 4 weeks ago, and that required that for me to throw that event. It required a certain number one, certain level of confidence, and number two, that hey, like there's a lot of people that will come here just for me. There are a lot of people that will come here, and that was a switch that I did that I had a really hard time um, unlocking because I didn't believe in myself. But like there was a series of conversations that I have with multiple people that I look up to. What I can confidently say like it was more of a mindset coach to sum it up. It's a lot of going through a lot of mindset coaches, going through not therapy per se, but people that um, help you overcome these mindset issues, like I said, and they also have to fit your style of coaching. Like I've
Mhm.
had a handful of mindset coaches in the past, Keston being one of them, and I think Keston is probably one of my favorite ones because he is a very straight shooter. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. But then I've also had mindset coaches where they were very, very nurturing. They were very like caring, and I'm like, I do not. I feel like I'm being babysat right now,
Mm,
and so that's kind of yeah. To answer your question, like it'll be a handful of people in my life that
yeah,
like Keston.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. Uh, it's easy for me to kind of see, right? Because I've gone through some personal development kind of coaching on my, for my own thing and seen the drastic changes. So like, it's easy for me to understand, I guess, what you're talking about. But for other people that are kind of, just listening and hearing this for the first time to go like, this guy's been doing 4 deals a month, right? He's built this portfolio. How can he not be confident? And like, it doesn't really matter where you're at in your journey. There's different little
Right.
things that are playing in your head that kind of can prove confidence. And it sounds like this workshop that you did, like, this was a new journey, this was a new thing for you. And there's the little head voice in your head that's going like, oh no, you're not good enough, no, people don't want you, right? And so you have like a to like drill instructor almost more kind of in Keston, where he's going to go, no, dude, you got this, like build you up in a straightforward kind of way. It sounds like.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, that's amazing. How did
Wow.
oh man, I got a little kink in my neck. Sorry. Um, I want to make sure that we're respectful of your time and all the things going on there.
Yeah.
What's kind of like the next step? I know you're kind of going, you're leading into multifamily. What where do you see yourself in 6 months, 12 months, and kind of what obstacles do you see in your way right now of getting you there?
Before I answer that question, I want to point out one thing.
Yeah.
I've been on so many podcasts, um, virtual, in person, and truly, truly appreciate the questions that you're asking me because these are the questions that I've never really get asked. And what happens with when I go on a podcast is people ask me such generic questions that you could have I answered that 17 times, 17 million times in like all these different episodes in the podcast. So it shows like a lot of respect. So I appreciate you because when I go to other people's podcasts and I get to ask questions over and over again, it's like, oh, this person never really did the research, but I definitely don't feel that about you. So thank you.
I
But
appreciate
yeah, but my next venture will be, and my I say this is my next venture, but I don't know. I
that.
truly don't know, and I'll probably look back at this podcast um, that I filmed on September 4th, 2024, and I'm gonna say, you know what, I went on a podcast with Nathaniel, and I sold all my rental properties, and I absolutely have no clue what I'm doing. You know, this is something like I could have retired off these rentals and lived very comfortably, but
Yeah.
that's not the route that I chose today. I don't want to be average. I want to go a completely different route that everybody's like, why would Kevin ever do that? And but I I don't know I don't know what my next venture is gonna be. I think it will have to be some sort of along the lines of multifamily, because I want to instead of me buying 27 single family houses, I'd rather buy a 127 building and I have the same amount of units and possibly have more cash flow.
Yeah.
Um, so that's gonna be my thing that I'm gonna be focusing on. But also like being the creative finance person that I am, like having focus on creative finance, I want to focus multifamily, but strictly in the creative financing space, seller financing space, subject to space. and that's gonna be my niche, I think, for now. But like I said, that's subject to change because I don't really know what the next chapter is gonna write up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, it's like I could see it being kind of exciting and also kind of not overwhelming as maybe, but like a little bit nerve-wracking, not kind of knowing, especially for somebody like yourself that's been, so goal and focus driven for such a long time now that yeah, not knowing what the next steps are. I kind of think it would be exciting. Like you have a lot of different ways you can go, but um, I like to ask my guests here. When your time, like you're still young, so this is a long ways off, God willing. But when your time on this earth is done, and there's people that you left behind, what does Kevin want to be remembered for?
Well, my favorite word that people describe me as is fearless.
Hmm.
I had David Golick say Kevin's um what's the most fearless animal? Most fearless animal.
Like a honey
Um,
badger?
yeah, honey badger. Yes. David Golick 2 years ago he called a honey badger because I moved out of
Really?
my parents' house with no money. I got into real estate with no experience. And then I sold all my rentals when I could have lived off of that for the rest of my life, never having to really worry about paying my bills. Not living extravagant life, but just pay my bills. And I want people to like. There's nothing that gives me more happiness when somebody says Kevin's a he's a fearless guy,
Hmm.
and maybe not. And I want to at this moment I want to be known as that person because I don't have a family. Like I don't want to be known as a family guy right now.
Yeah.
I want to be known as a young, fearless entrepreneur if I were to be gone today.
Yeah.
But I think if I was in my 30s, 40s, and I had my own family that I was starting, like I'll be like, I want to Kevin's a great father.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's fair enough. I mean, for where you're at right now, I think that that's a perfect answer. And um, if that's the path, if the fatherhood and the path that you end up choosing going down, I think you're going to make a great one of that. I did want to say you mentioned the being young, right? And you are actually somebody that I found myself kind of comparing to when I first joined Sub 2, and to a detriment to myself because right there's the like compare and despair kind of thing. And it wasn't
Right,
until I realized like, oh man, Kevin is just in a completely different place in his life, right? It's unfair to me to compare myself to him as it would be for him to compare himself to me. Like, I don't know. It's a little sidebar kind of thing, but I've never gotten the chance to tell you that. Like, you were one of the people that I saw, going out there and doing deals all the time. Like, man, why is Kevin doing so many deals? Oh, well, Kevin's, making 10 hours of calls a day and you're changing poopy butt, you know? So, yeah, that was it. That was a little sidebar. I know we talked about or you emailed me some book recommendations, and I know you just did a shorter reel or something about
yeah.
some book recommendations. I have a list going. What would be like three to five top books that you would recommend for people just getting started in real estate, from an entrepreneur's, kind of mindset kind of things? What books would you recommend?
Um, I don't really. There's not a real estate book that I recommend. The
Okay.
reason being is because I don't really believe in learning real estate through a book. But I think a lot of the success in real estate comes from the mindset that you have to overcome, right? Like the mindset of okay, like I remember vividly. I was like, I want to have at least 2 deals in escrow at any given time. That
Mm,
was my goal,
yeah.
and I couldn't hit it for like a year and a half because my mindset wasn't there.
Mm,
My mindset was I just didn't believe in myself. But now it's like doing 4 deals a month. Usually have 6 deals in escrow. Like I've overcome this mindset. So I really recommend a lot of people to not read real estate books, but you know like my mindset books, self development books. My favorite being is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Um, Uh, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is one of my favorite. Think and Grow Rich. Like those books I just read. The Secret about Rhonda Byrne,
Oh yeah,
Manifesting.
yeah,
Such good book. Well, just I like to read. I don't read a
yeah,
lot of books. I read the same books multiple times. Um, and I get something new get something new out of it every single time I read it. So
yeah, yeah. That's something that I wasn't a big reader up until a couple years ago. Um, but I never thought like, oh, you read that book already. Why would you read it again? But things have changed in your life. Your perspective have changed. You've maybe learned some new things from other books that now the wording in this book it hits you differently. And so I that's something that I think is amazing. Last year I read Think and Grow Rich, The Law of Attraction, and the Sandler book. How
can't
to
teach
keep
a rat how to buy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't teach a kid. Yeah, I read those once a quarter. I read each of them one month. Da, da, da. So I read each book 4 times last year, and like you're saying, yeah, you get a little something new every time. Like just ingraining those things in your head. I think it's amazing. I appreciate you being here, brother. Do you have any like parting? Yeah, see.
Um, no, it's not parting, but
Okay.
you didn't finish the book sentence, and I feel like people go crazy. The name of the
Oh,
book is "You Can't Teach a Kid How to Ride a Bicycle at a Seminar."
seminar. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a follow-on one to that I think that once you understand the framework of that book is just as powerful, if not even more powerful. I think, and I want to say it's called Asking Questions the Sandler Way, which is about when somebody asks you a question, being able to acknowledge it, give them kind of a pat on the back, and then reverse the question by asking them another question and keeping control of the conversation, which I'm sure you're pretty well versed at this point. But yeah, it's a good follow-on book. Um, yeah, do you have any little parting words for anybody out there listening? Whoa, actually, before I do that, I know you have your YouTube channel. If anybody has any value to bring you, Kevin did mention the best way to kind of reach out. Where should people connect with you? Where can people follow you other than that YouTube channel?
Instagram is a great place to connect. Instagram and YouTube is where I spend majority of my time, like 80% of my time.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
watch my YouTube video. I have a lot of seller calls, agent calls on there, and I also have um, I don't know. I recently posted a video about how I sold all my rentals. We touched on that a little bit for like 5 minutes, but I have like a 15-minute video deep dive as to like why I sold it, how much I sold it for, and I get a little bit more personal in that video. A lot of people find value out of it. But yeah, like I love when people come to my YouTube.
yeah. Yeah, you're providing a lot of value, so I think people are drawn to it. So I appreciate
Yeah.
you being here, brother. I'll let you get to community camp. I know that there's a lot of. Would you don the hat real quick before we part, though?
Yes. Just put it on.
Yeah, it's so good. It's a good hat. It didn't yeah it didn't sit right with the headphones. That's why. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a cowboy hold down. So
Yeah, I saw. I've been having a little FOMO. I got an I somebody there invited me and we had just gotten back from a family trip and Brittany is like 3 months away from having our third baby and I was like I don't think it's 3 weeks, sorry, not 3 months. She heard me in the background, you can hear. So I was like I don't think it's a great time to be leaving because it does seem like any day she's gonna just go here's the baby like so
yeah.
yeah so one day I will meet you in person. I know we've talked on the phone and texted and all that, but it's coming up. I appreciate you being here, brother.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Later.
Bye.
So that was Kevin Choe, amazing young man. As you can tell, he's been working very hard, very diligently to build the team, build the systems, and build his portfolio, which he then just sold. I appreciate all of y'all being here. Anybody who's listening presently, actively, right now, thank you for being here live with us. Anybody who's listening in the future, you know where you can reach out to Kevin. As always, we're here Wednesdays, noon Eastern Time for networking with Nathaniel. I have my Helping Hands Hour that goes live Thursdays at noon Eastern Time. That's designed for just coming in and asking questions, helping you get unstuck, role playing, talking about specific deals. If you want the details for that, please reach out. You can go to nathanielhovsepian.com and find all that there. It's been a pleasure. Until next week, later.